What is going on, Hive Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about water fasting, how you can use it effectively, and the pros and cons of water fasting. I'm going to talk about some of the science that exists out there that support the points in this video. Water fasting appears to be emerging in popularity, so I feel like this is a good time to jump into the science. Stay tuned. Before I start, guys, this video is sponsored by me, Fledge Fitness. My jump ropes are back, and I know you guys have been waiting for them. They are back in stock. I do apologize once again. If you haven't gotten yours and you want yours, please get them now, because it's really hard for me to gauge how fast they sell so that it can come in a reasonable amount of time. I'm the one that packs and ships all of these. So if you want the jump rope, which is a speed jump rope with great quality, aluminum handle, swivel for maximum speed, click right here at the top, and the link will be in the description down below. Now let's get into this video. Water fasting. A lot of people have been asking me about water fasting, if I should make a video on water fasting. I did make a video on water fasting, but this was a while back. I believe it was like late 2016, and it had a discussion kind of topic, a discussion feel to it, kind of like my previous video on the Dr. Oz show, but it wasn't a dive into what the science is saying so that you can make a definitive judgment on your own based on the research that exists. This video will be that. So that's why I felt like a second video with more information was warranted. I do want to say one thing: there are very little human studies and even very little animal studies, but definitely very little human studies that involve water fasting. A lot of people, when they hear the word water fasting, they don't think a 24-hour water fast, a 36-hour water fast, or even like a 16-hour water fast or 20-hour water fast. They're thinking in their minds 5 days or 3 days minimum when you hear the word water fasting. In terms of studies, there are very small amounts of studies passing 24 hours into that 72-hour range or that 5-day range. And I know that a lot of people just, hey, I don't care about the studies. I'd rather just do what my body lets me do or how my body feels. But you don't know how your body's going to feel. So if you're doing like a 5-day water fast or whatever it is, there is a risk there. There's a malnutrition risk. There's a risk of complications from the refeeding portion of it, especially if you go longer. And a lot of people sometimes go, 20, 30 days. When you go 20, 30 days, your refeed is critically important, because that shift, that hormonal shift, that rapid shift in hormones and sodium balance, because that's what's going to happen when you start eating. Although the chances of the complications are less based on medical case reports of patients who have done 14-day medically supervised fasts. Some had complications, but those were a lower percentage than those who didn't have complications after 14 days of water fasting. So I would advise that if you're going to do a water fast, that it be no longer than 48 hours. But that's just my advice based on the studies that we have, or the lack of studies that we have that go into that direction. Now, we could always theorize or say, hey, well, if I'm water fasting, if I'm providing my body with water, and then I have a lot of body fat on my body, and I do 30 days, what's the big deal? Energy coming from your calories is one thing, but nutrition, that is a completely different thing. Your body still needs to be balanced nutritionally, and that doesn't come from just using your body fat as energy. Now, if you're trying to use water fasting to lose weight, which I'm positive that a lot of people that do this are doing that to lose weight, I have a lot of issues with that, only because I'm not saying that it burns all your muscles off, because it doesn't. Your body has a lot of mechanisms that activate, that protect your muscles, like human growth hormone increase to retain muscle, your insulin decreases to target body fat. So there's a lot of things that happen in your body. So I'm not stating that this is something that you'll lose the wrong kind of weight. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that nutritionally, you are not going to have that in your system. You're going to be malnourished. And this can create complications if you're malnourished, because you're doing it for such a long time. The lack of all the nutrition that just comes from food, those things you're not going to have in your system. Also, a few key pointers if you're doing water fasting. Try to make sure that you're not dehydrated. And I know that sounds ridiculous because you're doing a water fast. Some people, when they do these fasts, drink the same amount of water that they did when they were eating. Oh, I drink, a few glasses here and there, so I'll be fine. But the thing is, 30% or so of water comes from the foods that you eat. So that's covering 30% of your daily water intake. And then water or juice or whatever you're drinking provides the other percentage. So if you're eliminating 30%, you want to drink water so that you at least don't feel those feelings of dehydration, which is dizziness, lightheadedness, all that stuff. You want to drink a lot of water when you're water fasting, more than you normally would when you're eating and drinking water. Now, the biggest thing that I have against water fasting when it comes to the longer term is that you don't have a sustainable system. It is very hard for your body to be malnourished consistently, where you're just not eating at all and just drinking water. So although mentally you could probably power through, or you feel like you can power through, and you're not going to be tempted to eat or anything like that, even if that's the case, even if you control that, the mental aspect, the psychological aspect of being able to do this forever, you're still going to be heavily malnourished multiple times throughout your life. And the constant shifts are always going to be slightly dangerous, considering that you are doing those hormonal rapid shifts. I've seen a lot of videos where people, show 5-day water fast, 1-week water fast, and it's fine if you want to test the waters. Be very careful going into those things. To me, a 48-hour water fast should be the threshold. There is a study with about 30 participants that was randomized, controlled, crossover, and they showed that there was an acute improvement on cardiovascular health, metabolic health, insulin sensitivity. Of course, autophagy is at a higher level when you go a little bit further. So that water fast was a 24-hour water fast. And of course, it's going to be very difficult for anybody in the medical industry to get approval to do like a 7-day water fast and see what happens to the body. But because of the science that we do know, we know the complications that can happen. Now, this is not to say that it will happen, but these are the things that can happen. And before you dive into something like a 7-day water fast, I want you to understand the pros and the cons. Yes, you're going to lose weight, obviously, but a much better approach is something that you can do day in, day out for the rest of your life. A lot of people want to use water fast as a one-shot deal. They'll say, hey, I just want to get to my weight and then I'm going to just do something else. But then why not just do the thing, the structure that you can do forever, so that way you never have to feel like, oh, do I have to do this again, or is this not working? Because you're not going to ever see the amazing speed of just not eating at all. With your insulin consistently at baseline, you're never going to reciprocate that again. So the likelihood of you saying, oh, I'm just going to do it and go all the way to a certain level and then just start eating normally or just doing intermittent fasting, you won't feel the satisfaction of weight loss like you did when you just didn't eat for so long. Fasting and eating, that's the balance that you need. You need to be able to fast for a good amount of time and then eat for a short time. That's where you're most efficient in terms of health, in terms of burning body fat. Yes, you'll burn more body fat by doing a prolonged water fast and you'll detox and all of that stuff, but you detox when you do intermittent fasting. Obviously not as much as water fasting, but you're still doing a detox. Now what intermittent fasting brings to the table literally is food, and that's not the case when you do prolonged fast. You're removing that, so the nutrition of food is out of the equation. There's a high level of weight loss, but then there's a low level in terms of your nutrition, your nutritional intake. With intermittent fasting, there's a good level of weight loss, and then there's also the nutritional factor there as well. And that sets up a structure where you can do this essentially for the rest of your life. All the studies and case reports that I mentioned will be down in the description below. I felt like I needed to make this video because a lot of people were asking me about it. I want people to know that I'm not 100% against a water fast. I would recommend it to be shorter, but I want you to know what you're getting into if you decide to do it, the pros and the cons. And I want to thank my patrons from my Patreon, and I'm going to put their names right